There we go.
All right. Damn it. Where'd I go? Hey guys, it's another meeting of COGS. And again, this is Dr. Brad Robinson and Dr. Terrence McCullough and myself, Dr. Mike Martin. And it's just a few, I'll say older, not old chiropractic gentlemen, guys, spouting what the profession needs to hear, whether it be technique, philosophy, the state of the chiropractic profession, what it's like to be retired, all the above. We started our conversation off recording about um, the state of the profession and what's happening with the colleges. And so we're going to continue that conversation, kind of restart it over again. Uh, the last time the three of us talked, we talked about soliciting places for us to go and speak our minds and turn on the younger chiropractors in our profession to, for lack of a better term, do what we think they should be doing, right? And why is that? That sounds a little egotistical, but the bottom line is we've done it right. If you look at it from the outside in, I don't care who you are. If we lay it out for you, you'll go, oh yeah, those guys did it right. Anyway, so we were talking about what were we talking about, Terrence? Care plans and inability to lay out a good care plan and how that is just symptomatic of bigger issues. And what were you just talking about? Oh, how our opportunities have dried up. So
Right.
what were you saying?
Well, yeah, that and the tough, the lack of tough, that the generation behind us of chiropractors, and maybe even the newest one coming in, the lack of toughness or uh, not wanting tough love or tough coaching, if we're to use that term, right? Um, that they can't handle. Um, let's do, the metaphors of training hard outside of practice so you're stronger inside of practice, that practice harder than you play, all that mentality, that it's got to be given to them more on a little bit of a silver platter, that you know and thus the thought of um, all these outside in things, i.e. laser or decompression or um, I don't know, any modality. And I'm not doubting the value of any of those things, but those things are going to biohack the patient to faster healing so they don't have to overcome complaints or objections or challenges or whatever, and teach them the more vitalistic aspect of health, and, build that family, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, that was a lot right there. And, unpack that a little bit, because w- here's what I heard. The thing that I heard most is that all those things have some benefits to them. Whether it be laser, decompression, or whatever, they're all good things.
Yes.
Um, but we've allowed them to take first place in line, second place in line, where subluxation should be the first thing. Uh, so here's the question: why?
It's the way they're educated. The
No,
young
no.
people are
Why should
trained.
subluxation be first?
Oh, why shouldn't
Yeah, why
public?
should the adjustment be first?
There you go. Because that's the foundation of what we do. I mean, that's what subluxation centered or chiropractic is all about. The job of the chiropractor is to locate, analyze, and correct vertebral subluxation to remove nerve interference, and then let the body's innate ability to heal itself kick in. The therapy has always been, in my mind, has been a way to provide comfort while the body's trying to heal itself. And that's when I would use it, and the patient would say, "Well, I'll get the adjustment if I can get on the intersegmental traction." Well, I'd stop the intersegmental traction and said, "You're just getting the adjustment,"
Hmm.
because they needed to know the problem is what's going on with their nervous system. And again, I go back to that: the problem's in the mind, not the spine. You've got to change their mind first.
Right. We know that. We appreciate that. We've seen it for 40 plus years. But you got these young kids coming out of school who either didn't believe before they went in, or were indoctrinated into not believing that the subluxation was a thing. So, what do we have to do to these kids?
Well, they have to learn the power of the adjustment even more so, right? And that still comes with, uh, the certainly the training in the school. I mean, again, we can probably pick on the schools all day long, and I'm not sure we're going to fix that. I would say the value for myself, which I know I've shared before, was once I got out of school, I was it created a curiosity in me, a passionate curiosity to continue to explore all aspects of practice, and most importantly, being able to deliver a good adjustment, the why that I was doing it, and the fact that uh, it takes time, in my experience, to rebuild that spine and nervous system and brain body connection, and then getting to the innate and universal intelligence aspect of it. And so if you can, I'll keep saying, continue to study, yeah, science, art, philosophy, but also communicate, right? I was lucky enough that, oh, wow, these, I didn't know this very well, so I need to understand it better so I can talk about it better and keep listening to the people who are. And I was lucky enough to have a sister who was just a few years ahead of me, sharing her journey, my dad, and then meeting and going, right? Like I said, staying curious that everybody thinks they're done with their education when they come out of chiropractic school. And fortunately, I was taught, the one you could pick on national, but Jancy was like, we're going to give you the basics. It's up to you to continue to improve your adjusting. We're not going to give you a technique. You need to go and do your own. You need to continue to study that. You need to do these things. You're not done. And it's shame on you if you don't continue. And, um, so that for me, so I spent what 5 years doing that, and then opened on my own, right? So, um, but and again, I think that's we've talked about these kids come out with this massive debt load, which just destroys their philosophy because then they're letting their finances dictate their philosophy, and panic and fear and
Panic
doubt,
and fear. Yep.
right? So no courage, no conviction, no clarity, all the things we talk
So
about, but they're unwilling to go do the things that they need to do it. It's just like, I'm going to charge $80 an adjustment. I'm going to, you know, close them for $5,000 and cross my fingers.
yeah. Yep. Right. Isn't it interesting that they're in debt and they're worried about, and they pump up that per visit, that dollar visit average in order to cover their nut. And we all know in reality, if you stick to the principle and you're adjusting subluxations and you're educating people, you'll have so many people coming through your office you won't know how to turn the spigot off. And I know that sounds contrived and it sounds like we're pushing something, but that's the reality, isn't it?
Oh,
It is for us, and from all the people that I've coached through the years, that's a reality. If you're pushing $120 visits, and you're struggling to keep people convinced that they need to come in and pay, you're already lost. You're already lost.
but they
You
also
know?
they also didn't know, Mike, that you and we found out that to get that spigot going to the level that you want, right? That you it takes a long time
Oh yeah.
to build that family referral based, if we're to
Again,
use
it
all those terms, that
does.
even when I was referral based, you still, like I was telling my nephew, we still had a Yellow Pages ad, or we still ran a
It,
flyer. I mean, you were still letting yourself be out there, but you're able to uh,
I would argue.
back into, less of that external, way
Right.
more internal and referral,
Yeah, yeah. So the reality is it doesn't take longer. Reality is it's shorter, right? Because if you're doing then you're doing it forever.
correct,
Whereas if you
correct,
do it on a principled philosophy, then you get to that internal referral base, right?
faster.
You
Yeah.
never get there at $130 a visit
No,
awareness. You never
And
ever
you're
get
always
there.
looking for new patients because the
Always.
old ones are dropping out. And any business person will tell you that back end sales are less expensive and easier to come by than
Hmm.
front-end sales. So
Yeah.
keeping your patients for a long period of time at a reasonable fee, keep them under lifetime care, is how you build a practice. And
Uh,
you're not relying on new patients all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah. And for those younger chiropractors that are doubting the power of an adjustment, well, we talked about this a little while ago. How about if you take 6 months and every new patient that comes in, you see them every day for 10 days and then 3 times a week for months and watch what happens.
Right.
Watch what happens.
Absolutely.
Your dollar visits an average can be lower. You'll look, you'll get people well. Well, you won't get people well, but people will get well and they'll refer. And it just makes it so much easier. They can't see past, well, they don't believe, I guess, or even if they do believe, like you said, it's fear. It's fear and pressure or whatever it
I think
is.
a lot of it is this generation is more about work-life balance than work. And to be
I see
successful,
that.
you have to work at it. Every
Well,
time I see people, they tell me, so well, I can only work so many hours because I have to have my 8 hours of sleep every night. And I need to have my meditation time and I need to have my family time. Whereas we were in the practice working. We did have family time and we did
Yeah.
have, I mean, you trained for the Ironman marathon.
Yeah. Terrence trained a lot too. So did you.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
all trained. That's
yeah.
the funny thing is that it's the misconception is that you have to spend all your time in the office to be
It's interesting
successful.
because I look at it, I'm like, I had family time, I had training time, I had
Hmm.
meditation time, I had social time.
Hmm.
I had plenty of time, and I don't understand this. I'm in the office till 8 o'clock, and I can't tuck my kids into bed. I'm like, why? Why? You need a system. You need better support. You need something because I just. Or are you doing so much paperwork to justify that $200 visit? Maybe that's the problem.
That's part of the problem right
You
there. You
know,
spend more time
and
filling out forms.
even that's a bullshit excuse because I can look at software now that'll do your paperwork AI wise, and even before that, it'll do most of your paperwork for you.
right.
I'll be right back. Keep going. Don't stop.
Okay,
No,
so
it's
I throw excuses at me because none of them land. You know, I just
yeah, yeah. Still, as they don't want to do the work, Mike, and and
well,
it's
I think what
again, just a lack of really wanting the mentoring. See, we were craving mentoring or
we
coaching.
were. Yep, yep.
I always just wanted to talk about it, and partially maybe to vent, partially to see if I was thinking correctly, partially to
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I wanted to share a victory or a concern, right? All those aspects. Still that same thing. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
Yeah, I was looking at a young guy that's an acquaintance. I was looking at a post he put up, and his name's Ryan, and Ryan's got scrubs on, which I have a little rub with that, but whatever. So I stopped at it because I know him, and he's got his scrubs on, and I wanted to hear what he had to say so that I could actually text him and say, WTF, dude, But then what he had to say, I was like, all right, I can't say anything because he talked just about that, Terrence. He said when he's having issues and he's struggling, the first thing he does is he calls his mentors and his coaches and he gets information. This young guy, and he's look, whether you volume or not, I mean, there's a reason he's at 500 plus and
Right.
doing incredibly well. But he admitted that he has issues and he struggles. First thing he does, calls his mentors,
Sure.
figures out where he's going wrong. And you don't, they're afraid of that. Why are they afraid of that?
Yeah.
I think they're afraid of it because I heard I listened to a preacher this weekend, this pastor, and he said the reason that people are even people that understand Jesus and they have a love of their Lord, um, the reason they don't accept the Lord in their heart is because they're afraid of the work and the accountability that comes after it. And I think that's the same with these young kids is they
I
don't
agree.
want a coach or a mentor because they know that work and accountability comes after.
That's
And there's only one way
spot
to
on.
there's only one way to get where we went and where we are, and that's what? Work
Work,
and
accountability.
accountability.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I
Well,
agree.
you heard my saying, the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary.
Right.
Right. And I don't want to bash anybody. I want to help. I want to help
Right.
everybody. You know? Uh, but maybe this is part of the problem, Terrence, is we're laying it out in black and white and it seems a little aggressive. That's the term that my daughter would use. Well, that was pretty aggressive. And I
Right.
was like, do you remember when you were a kid how aggressive I was? I'm being nice now, you know?
Right.
Uh, so maybe that's what it sounds like, but it's not. It's not. You know, I used to think my uncle was aggressive.
Yeah.
He probably was. But look where it got me.
Yeah.
You know? So
Well, I'll give you a work-life balance. So our son-in-law, was worked in banking and then in insurance sales, and the insurance sales for 3 or 4 years was all online at home, right? So he worked from home, cold calling, and what did very, very well with that, but was plateaued, at a level of income that was very good. And he talked about work-life balance. But anyway, so he recently opened his own agency, standalone building, employees, etc. And, so all of a sudden now he's working, leaving the house at 8, getting home at 6, Saturday and Sunday going on to the company thing, and he can check leads and
yeah,
build his schedule for the next week. And he couldn't be happier. And, he's not home, you know, all day around our daughter, and that sort of thing. But they're working towards something bigger and better, but he owns it, and I always say that ownership should drive you
should.
with some level of fear
Yeah.
to achieve, which I think all of us had. It's like a fear, like I think personally my biggest fear was I didn't want to let people down. My dad, particularly. And then if you get a coach you respect, then you're coach, right? So
Yeah.
my challenge in coaching was, as I moved through some coaches, if I could lose respect for them. Like the the classic thing, right? The person who sold you, and this was a thing, right, in our offices, whoever sold me their coaching program, that coach didn't show up.
Yeah. Right.
And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I, I was supposed to get this, and I'm not getting that. And um, like I said, I'll still give Fred Schofield most kudos that when he was in his heyday was delivering 100%, kind of like you
Yeah.
guys with Chris, and and I say respectfully with Fred now, you should hang up the cleats. Just give some talks and talk about the old days or something.
Right. 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 Well, it's kind of like where we are now, right? We're not hanging up our cleats, but we're showing up, right? We're showing up
Yeah,
for. Yeah, I think the difference is we're showing up for whoever wants to show up with us.
right.
We're not going out and pushing it.
Yeah,
And to that, to piggyback on that, we talked a little bit about showing up someplace in a venue where we can talk about our stuff, right? And you said it, Terrence, before we started that, maybe some of that has dried up, and I'm like, well, yeah, probably some of it has, but if we go and we're out in the hallway talking,
right,
where do we learn most of our stuff, Terrence?
right,
Friday night in the hallway,
right.
right? And if we're
Absolutely.
out we're out there holding court on a Friday night, we're probably making as big an impact as if we're on the stage, right?
I would agree with that.
So
100%. I think there's way more value in
yeah,
that.
we just
Kind of
have
like
to show up, right? We
yeah,
just have to show up.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Even if we do get 15 or 20 minutes on a stage, if there's 300 people in the room and 5 people hear us, okay.
Right.
All
Well,
right.
I think that's exactly how it works, though, right?
I
You
don't
know
have to,
that, right?
yeah, I don't have to build the volume anymore. That's it's not. I want to stay engaged with the people that want to engage the principal in the way that I love chiropractic. Even if the schools aren't, even if, I listened to somebody this past week and somebody that's very principled that said it's going away, man, it's going away. We can't save the schools. The way we practice is not going to exist in another 20 years. And I'm like, I heard this shit when I was in college,
Right.
and somehow this principle is like a cockroach, it hangs around because it's bulletproof
True.
because it's true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a cockroach. I would say more like it's granite.
Okay.
It's stable. It's a rock.
Thank you. It's
It's a
bedrock.
rock.
It's bedrock, right? It's
That
cornerstone.
That's
exactly.
true.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I'll agree with that.
that's
It's the
why we
it's a
why it will.
it's a chiropractors like us that are cockroaches.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I would agree with that 100%.
That's
But
funny.
it's so interesting that to hear these young students and graduates and what because Sam's really pretty recent graduate, and talking to their friends, they all want these boutique practices. They don't want to have to hire anybody. They want to be able to have their dog in the office and they can adjust a handful of people. What kind of vision and mission is that?
It's not.
That's not.
No. And you know what? I think that is generational. And I don't know what's first, cart or the horse, right? Is it generational, or this is what they're told is the gold star practice in school? I don't know.
I don't
I mean,
know.
are the instructors in the schools selling this because that's what they think these kids want, or is it the other way around? I don't know.
Well, I mean, look at the pattern. I know whenever I still try to read the newspaper a couple times a week, and the patterns though in our society are, again, niches to riches. So a separate thing about young people, all you trying to use AI or the internet to sell something to supplement their income or to give them more free time, things like that. So that's happening. Then, my soapbox about, patriarchy versus matriarchy about and a whole 2-page thing about men who are changing diapers now and blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. I'm like that. First of all, that men never like that we didn't do any chores, which
Oh
just
my God.
drives me crazy. But
I know.
uh, I changed diapers. I never
So did I.
feared watching my kid. All those sorts of things. But it's kind of again back to the work-life balance and our or parenting balance. I just think that's it's a lie.
It
Yeah,
is. I think so too.
it's not how it works.
No.
Because I
You,
was,
you,
we made a choice. I remember the conversation with my wife. I was like, we were both working, Terrence born, blah, blah, blah. And before she went back, I said, I can do this, meaning you can stay home and take care of our son, and I can build a business that will be, provide better than both our incomes. I'll do better. And we just did it. We also didn't talk about who did the checkbook or who
no, no.
what or who shopped or whatever. It just
No.
got
Got it
done
done. You
and
know,
you figured it out. And I
yeah,
got home in time to put kids to bed, maybe just in time. I get that, but
yeah.
uh, and I, but it's still that I'm going back to the thing where you just like how many so all the chiropractors are selling niches to riches. So a lot of the coaches have these online coaching or whatever you call them stuff that they're that person who's making more over there than they
Modular learning,
make
yeah.
in practice. Or the worst, even the people who did well in practice that then, which makes me reverse engineer what they really did. They didn't really do it that way, but this is what sells. Or they're trying to sell a platform that they don't have to work on anymore, right? To
Yeah.
just do it. It's just a lack of showing up to
Mm,
the
mm,
same thing.
mm.
Showing up every day and you do your job and do it really well and keep getting better at it and better and better and better because you love it.
Yeah.
Not and oh, by the way, then you can maybe you'll make an income. And I'll go back to this. As chiropractors, our profession isn't designed to make so much money that we can own 5 homes, have a yacht, blah, blah, I'll stand by
Right.
what I said. You work 50 weeks a year, and you can rent anything you want for 2 weeks, but then get back to your office.
Yeah, absolutely. You just said it, and I think that this just it gets glossed over. Our profession is not engineered as such that you are going to make millions of dollars. Can you make $1 million a year? Sure, but
Yes.
millions in you're it's just not unless you own multiple practices and then you become an administrator,
Yes. Then
right?
you're not.
Okay, yeah, all right. As long as those 5 practices are principal based, I'm all right with that. You know.
Exactly.
I remember with Lisa and I in same term, and I know Brad and Lori well enough that there 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 was a division of responsibility based upon the fact that I had the degree in the technology to adjust patients. Other than that, everything else was split,
Right.
as best as it could. We didn't talk about hey, I did the grocery shopping this week, you do it next week. It just fell to whoever had the opportunity to do it.
Yep.
The only thing in our whole marriage that she had to actually confront me with was I was going to seminars and learning all this cool shit that would change our lives, and she wasn't going. She wanted to be leveled up with me, and that's the only thing. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll figure that out. Bring the kids with
Right.
us, right? That was the
Right.
only thing. But how many people even think about that nowadays? They don't think about it nowadays. Now it's all online modular learning anyway. So,
It's
which,
good to a point. It's very good. It's
pardon
good.
me.
But well, again, I just here's my other experiences. I just had some stuff with some investment stuff, and this guy had this stuff tucked over here for the last 10 years, and he would send me a postcard every year on birthday, right? Maybe
Yeah.
something on the anniversary of a policy or whatever. And so I start to look at the stuff, and it's really not doing what what it's supposed to, right? And so I say, well, I'm cashing out, whatever, and get I get a recorded video, right, outlining why these are good, whatever it might be, and a couple other things, but I still proceeded to bail, right? And my point being that as that you got to stay in touch with your patients, and a birthday card offering to get on a Zoom call with them or offering a once a year adjustment ain't enough.
Yeah.
So back to, for myself, that's why I had so many people whose maintenance was 3 times a week.
Yeah, right. And
And
try to get them off of that.
correct. Correct. And the people that came once a month, that was just a fail. For me, it was a fail
Yeah,
because
right.
I would look at them every time because they would come in and they'd want you to fix them.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, could you just come every week then? And
Mm.
I'll even charge you the same thing. Just come every week because if you come once a month and say do this, my face would betray me every time. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah.
And stronger words behind my eyes, so that I didn't have people who I don't have anybody to, I never I if I had one or two, I would just shame them so badly and and shake my head. So my
Yeah.
point are, but every profession needs to stay in touch more. So even like my son-in-law with his insurance business said, I said, you need to figure out a way to stay in touch. You need to call these, what I don't know how many people it takes, but let's say you get 1,000 people in a whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like with him, you need to figure out a way that you're sending them a email, a card, a call every quarter, something like that.
What,
Hey,
what,
just checking in, or a text. Now you can text. Hey, this is Dave, so and so checking
yeah.
in.
What
Your policy
happens?
looks good.
What happens when you have a garden and you don't water it, it doesn't get any sunlight, you don't weed it, right? It dies,
Yeah,
right? I know that's a simple analogy,
yeah,
but we'll do that with patients. Is we'll we'll communicate with them about visits and missed visits. We'll communicate about them with referrals and such. But you know what we fail to communicate with them regularly is their financial responsibility. We do it like the first visit and then, when they re-sign up. But other than that, I mean, how often do you do it with somebody when they fall behind? right? You know, and that sounds funny, but it's just a conversation, you
Yep.
know?
Stay on
You know?
top, but also then give them the value. You got to keep
Yeah.
giving them the value. You got to keep you know me.
That's the key
Thumb
right
on
there.
C5. Thumb on C5.
Yeah.
That's that's what you're working. Oh, boop.
Yeah.
Wow. There's your value. There's your
And
Right.
you got
value.
to create that value on each and every visit because they learned this from David Singer many years ago. Whether they're paying you $5 or $500, you got a 50-50 chance of not coming back.
Yep.
So you have to create that value on a regular basis. Give them a big enough why they should be under regular care, whether it's once a week or once or 3 times a week or whatever.
Yeah.
But you
Look,
have to
you,
create that value on a regular basis. And if you don't, the patient won't value it because they're either going to quit because they're in pain or they're not in pain.
Right.
But if they realize the importance of a healthy nervous system, then they're going to reach into their pocket and pay for it.
well, you just brought it full circle, didn't you, Brad? The value is in the philosophy of the adjustment and the subluxation, right? It's not in pain or no pain because they leave in the pain or they leave not in pain, right? So
Well, you have to transform, right?
yeah. And you
So
have to do that. You have to do that with multiple visits. How do
yes.
you build a great patient on 3 times a week for a couple of weeks, 2 times a week for a couple of weeks? You don't. You build a great patient 3 times a week for 3 months, 6 months, or a year. You know, that's where you build a good patient value. There's the value. But that's not easy.
Right.
Difficult.
No, if it was easy, everybody'd do it, right?
Yeah.
Right. You just got to give them a big enough reason why.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out your reason why. First of all, you figure out your reason why are you in practice? My reason was I wanted every man, woman, and child in the world to have their spine checked on a regular basis. That's my vision. And my mission was to create an environment where I could educate and adjust as many of those families as possible.
Yeah, right.
And if my vision isn't fulfilled, I learned this from uh, uh, illusions. If your vision isn't filled, then your mission isn't over. If you're still breathing, your mission's not done.
Yeah.
So as long as you stay mission based, you can't go wrong.
No, I agree.
Yep.
So maybe on our next call, we talk about how our vision and mission has changed now that we're not in there 5 days a week.
Okay.
Because that's important. There are a lot of guys out there like us on the verge of being like us. Like my buddy Joe, I can name 3 of them. You know, they're right there. And he Joe actually said to me, you know, if you put out another book, another little book, it should be about, you know, what it's like after, you know, slinging 800 visits a week or whatever it was at the time. He said that's what would be something I would want to read.
I got a title for you.
What's that?
Don't retire, rewire.
Yeah, yeah. I hear Lisa say that to people all the time. Hey, he's not tired. He's apparently fine. So it's rewired, and people go, "That's an interesting way to look at it."
There you go.
Everybody I've ever mentioned that to has said that's a very smart way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Because usually retiring means you're quitting and just going to sit down and watch TV and whatever. But if you rewire, you're just changing your direction and
Great.
changing your what you're
Moving on
intend
to
to
a
do.
moving on to a different strength, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Grandpa
You know,
mode.
and
Grandpa.
you talk to the people that say, well, I'm going to die over my table. That's all I want to do.
And you've heard me say
That's the
there's
wrong,
nothing. There's no virtue in that.
there
Yeah.
is none. And you look at the greats, your uncle, he didn't die over the table,
No way.
but he did die still professing
The
the
love.
virtue of having a nervous system free of interference.
Imagine the quality of the adjustment from a 92-year-old that's going to die the next day. Imagine the quality of the innate con. I was terrible. It could be great. It could be better than it ever was, right? But anyway, so
Hey, at 69, you still can do it. I had to cover for Sam yesterday. And I'm covering for him this week. I adjusted 53 people in 3 hours. So that
There you
was
go.
not bad for an old man.
Yeah. I did 14 last Wednesday in an
Yeah.
hour
Oh
and a half,
man,
maybe a little over an hour and a half.
14. That's
Even when you're rewired, man, they find you. If your passion is what it is and you profess and you are who you profess to be, they actually come and ferret you out. So, but yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
absolutely.
All right. I hate to cut it short, but
Yeah.
so, all right. I love you guys and we'll talk in 2.
2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm all right with that. Yeah, I'll look at
Uh,
the,
3 weeks.
No,
2 weeks.
3 weeks.
I'm not available that day. Yeah. That'd
okay.
be the 14th, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, that would be the 14th. That's not good
Yeah.
for you?
No. 21st.
21st? Is that good for you,
yeah,
Mike?
that's good. Yeah, that's good for
All
me.
right. I'll put
Okay.
that in my calendar.
Okay.
All right, gents.
All right, guys. Good talking to you. Have
All
a
Thanks.
right.
great day.
You too.